Singapore is a city-state located at the southern tip of Malay Peninsula, about 85 miles north of the equator. It consists of the diamond-shaped Singapore Island and some 60 small islets. The main island occupies all but about 18 square miles of this combined area. Singapore is one of the world's greenest cities. Nearly half of Singapore's land area, approximately 700 square kilometers, is under green cover. Beyond numerous parks and gardens, there are pockets of undiscovered plant life housed in the most unusual places.
Singapore has a contemporary modern culture and consists of a combination of Asian and European cultures, mainly by Malay, South Asian, East Asian and Eurasian influences. Singapore has been dubbed as a country where East meets West, gateway to Asia and a garden city. The lion dance by the Chinese community is performed during various festivals like New Year, while the Malay national dance Zepin is popular among the Malays. The cultural heritage is what makes Singapore Singapore, a congregation of different cultures coexisting in one congenial space. The population of Singapore is diverse, the result of a considerable past immigration. The Chinese are the largest ethnic group in Singapore, making up 75% of the total population. Malays are the next largest ethnic group, and Indians the third. As Singapore commemorates its bicentennial in 2019, residents reflect on three values: openness, multiculturalism, and self-determination that have all helped form the modern-day nation.
Singapore's traditional attire consists of a blend of different clothing styles found in nearby countries. The population of Singapore is made up of multiple races such as Indian, Malay, Chinese, Indonesian, and Eurasian, so there is not one specific type of clothing that represents the country's rich diversity. There are 5 main traditional clothing which represent Singapore's culture. The baju kurung is the traditional female dress of Singapore and Malaysia with a long and loose-fitting top paired with a matching long skirt. The baju Melayu is the male version of the baju kurung and also consists of a long-sleeve baggy top but is instead paired with long trousers. The cheongsam is an elegant traditional attire of Singapore and China for women, which provides a slim-fit form and a high collar made from silk cotton. The sarong kebaya is a tight-fit costume that includes a tight blouse and a skirt of batik worn in Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia. And finally, the sari, mainly worn in Singapore and India, is a long strip of fabric worn around the body in different styles.
Tourism has become increasingly important to Singapore's economy. Singapore's central location in Southeast Asia and its excellent air transport facilities have augmented by massive investments in hotels and shopping centres. Duty-free shopping and a variety of recreational attractions, along with a refurbished beachfront, are among the primary attractions. The tourism industry is an important pillar of the Singapore economy. Apart from adding diversity and vibrancy to their economy, tourism also directly contributes to Singapore's GDP through spending by tourists. On 25th January 2022, Singapore's international visitor arrivals and tourism receipts reached 330,000 and an estimated 1.9 billion in 2021.
The rise in unemployment in Singapore since the first quarter of 2016 can be attributed to a rise in cyclical unemployment, structural unemployment, and possibly frictional unemployment. However, the unemployment rate for permanent residents decreased from 3.1% to 3% and from 3.3% to 3.2% for citizens. The unemployment rate in Singapore continued to improve in February 2022, according to the Ministry of Manpower's latest monthly unemployment situation report. For 2022, core inflation has been projected to come in at 2.5 to 3.5% greater than the previous forecast of 2 to 3%, and the GDP in Singapore was predicted to reach 390 billion USD by the end of 2022. And that was very well achieved according to the Trading Economics Global Macro Model. In the long term, Singapore's GDP is projected to trend around 425 billion USD in 2022 and 449 billion USD in 2023, according to our econometric models.
In 2020, when the COVID-19 pandemic was severely prominent in society, Singapore's GDP dropped from $374.4 billion to $340 billion. Inflation took a drastic decline from 0.57% to negative 0.18%, and unemployment rose from 3.1% to 5.19%. Overall, Singapore's economy shrank by 5.4% in 2020 due to COVID. The pandemic brutally disrupted economic activity as consumer-facing industries and sectors such as food and retail had cutbacks on domestic consumption due to social distancing measures. The overseas sector of the economy was badly damaged as flights to and from Singapore were restricted, and the pandemic also caused trade and construction disruptions. The Monetary Authority of Singapore eased monetary policy to maintain price stability to counteract this.
Private sector economists have raised their 2022 inflation forecasts for Singapore amid higher energy and food costs, flagging sharper than expected price gains as the top downside risk ahead for the economy, according to a quarterly survey released on June 8 this year. Economy watchers said that a sharper than expected rise in inflation, driven mainly by higher energy and food prices, will be the top downside risk to Singapore's growth outlook. A big jump is expected in Singapore growth after COVID measures are lifted. Easing measures will mean mobility at recreational areas and workplaces, which could lift GDP by 3% to 4%, says Brian Tan. Resumption of international travel can also potentially fill 4% GDP.
The official currency in Singapore is the Singapore dollar, SGD. 1 Singapore dollar is equal to 1.02 Australian dollars. Singapore notes are a bit different to our currency in Australia. They have a $1,000 note and even a $10,000 note, whereas in Australia we don't have any of these. While we travel to Singapore, you cannot use Australian dollars there, just like you can't use Singapore dollars here.
Singapore's major and top exports are integrated circuits, refined petroleum, gold, packaged medicaments, and gas turbines. They export to China, Hong Kong, the United States, Malaysia, and Indonesia. Singapore's major imports are machinery, transport equipment, and crude petroleum. Japan, the United States, Malaysia, and China are Singapore's primary trading partners. Most goods entering Singapore have a 7% GST included, but this is usually for items that cost over 400 Singaporean dollars. Under the MRA grant, Singapore-based companies can recover 70% of certain third-party costs, which can go up to $20,000 per year.
Since the late 1960s, Singapore has pursued a general policy of export-oriented industrialization. In order to attract foreign investment, the economy was liberalized and a series of incentives were provided to multinational corporations. Chief among these was the establishment of free trade zones. Gradually, the production has been diversifying from such labor-intensive industries as textiles to high-technology activities like the manufacture of electronics and precision equipment and even ore refining, which yield a much higher added value to production. This is Singapore.